Hello friendos and randos, welcome back to another video. I'm doing the long-awaited RP Law vs Enel OP07 matchup guide. So I have a few different video clips here, kind of just showing in the background what the usual lines of play are, what the strategy is in general, and what you should be doing, how to navigate the late game portions of the game, which are the most important, and my own opinions on whether you should leave them at 2 life, when you should leave them at 2 life, and so on and so forth. So you can see here it's a very standard start. On my second turn, I go Ain, which gets answered with a Gedatsu, and then I'm going to start my next turn with Ace to clear the Gedatsu, and then also developing a large body that's pretty difficult to get rid of. So bottom decking the Gedatsu, I play down Beppo in order to maintain my Dawn, and to also continue to ramp the following turn. So he answers here with Flampe into Raigo, which is pretty strong, setting himself at 1 life, as well as getting rid of the Ace without needing to trash his life, also letting him draw a card. So in most cases, the Ace here is pretty strong, especially if they're still on 2 life, because you would either force the Raigo to trash life, or they would have to burn Flampe. So I swing 5 in my leader here, in order to just get him to guard or to take early. Then I play Kid into leader effect into Reiju, just to build my board, draw more cards, and continue to look for my pieces. Most importantly, you want to see 2 or 3 Kid killers so you can continue to place a lot of pressure on the Enel. I also sing 5 here with the Beppo in order to ramp 1. So in hindsight, I probably should have hit with the Beppo first instead of my leader, because this way he did get a free cycle, because he no longer needed to play around the Kid and killer since I already used leader effect. So he is at 9 Dawn. So generally, if your opponent is at 2 life at the turn before 9 Dawn, you can consider leaving them at 2 life. But in this case, because he did the Flampe Raigo play, he was already at 1 life anyway, so you can just continue to pressure. So I think slight mistake here, he forgets to heal for 1, and he also clears the Reiju instead of the Kid. So we will reverse that game state. Now I let him heal. And now, at this stage, it's with 3 or more bodies on the board that you start to apply pressure on the opponent and try to reduce his hand size as much as possible. So usually I start with the 5k leader swing first, because if he chooses to counter, I can just develop 2 bodies and then pass turn. But because he chooses to take, I can start to push while he's at 1 life. And now that he's countered out with 2 hand cards, I can reduce my pokes to 5 each and threaten more white pokes rather than larger pokes. Here I actually forget to ramp with the Beppo effect. You can see I'm going 5 into 6. And 6 here with the threat of Kid Killer still to push him to 0. Here it's okay to push 6 even if you don't intend to rush, because most Enels will counter out, seeing that you have so many Dawn open at the back in case of a double Kid Killer swing. I do still want to build more board, so I end up just going with Kid and Reiju again. It's important to have as many attacks as possible against a deck like Enel, because you will need at least 3 attacks to get him from 1 to dead, and 4 attacks if you're going from 2 life to dead. So he does have second Yamato here, and this is where he starts to clear the board. Swings, clears the Kid with the Yamato effect, then swings 6 into my Zorojiro, and then 9 into my blocker Kid, leaving me with only 2 bodies left. But thanks to the pressure that I've applied thus far, his hand now is down to 5 hand cards already, which is a pretty reasonable position to start pushing for lethal. So the main goal when you're playing against Enel is definitely to reduce their hand size as low as possible, so that you can end the game with multiple 5k swings even, or just multiple 7k swings. So here I start off with the Beppo swing in order to, for 1 ramp, and for 2 bait out 1k counters. And I follow up with the Reiju swing here again to bait out that 1k counter. And since he countered out of both, I'm going to leave him at 2 life. Firstly, I reduce the Yamato's power with the 4-cost Law, and then I'm going to swing into it now, while also developing bodies. So importantly, you want to develop Bonclay in this matchup as well, so that you can pressure with that bigger body, since it can copy the Enel's 9 or 10k power characters. So here I could have chosen to develop one more character as well, but instead I chose to clear the Yamato just to reduce the amount of my board that he can clear, because this turn he cannot use Ace to rush if he wants to heal, since we left him at 2 life. So we're expecting him to swing 6 into one of our bodies and then 9 into the other one, which we'll probably let go, and then Yamato to clear the last body. So he does end up going for Rush Enel here instead, and then clears both of the rested bodies that we have. And now his hand is down to 3 cards. So I'm on 10 Dawn here. Another important part of this matchup is to ensure that you have a high Dawn count, because more Dawn means more characters you can deploy as well as stronger attacks. So with a lot of the RP laws I watch, one common mistake is seeing them at around 4 or 5 Dawn at this stage of the game when your opponent is dropping Yamato and Aces back to back, and that's definitely a way to head to defeat. So I again start off with 5k to leader, trying to bait out counter, and then once he counters out of that 5k swing, I swap and smack into the Enel instead, trying to reduce his hand size. So right now he's on 2 hand already, I'm trying to get it even lower. I summon Blocker Kit, using my leader effect, playing another character. So here I'm going to play Ain, ramping back up to 9. And more importantly, ramping to 4 active, and I'm going to use that 4 Dawn to play another character, so next turn I can threaten 5 attacks, including my leader. So I do have Kid Killer in hand, but I'm going to play the Shachi Pen down as a vanilla, just because I want to have that additional attack from hand instead of playing it down. So the turn switches over, he's going to swing 5 at my Law, and I'm going to give it up, because if not he's going to swing 9 at it with Yamato anyway. And then he's going to develop Ace and just heal 1 to go to 3 life. So this situation is still pretty good considering your opponent is now at 2 hand cards. So again, I'm going to poke 5k, then I'm going to start swinging a bit larger here because I only need to develop 1 character since my board is already full, so I can focus on using my Dawn to attach and then attack large numbers and force my opponent to lose hand cards. So here he hits the 0 cost event trigger out of life, putting him back to 2. And he does have to discard 2 as well, which puts him back at 2 hand again. And this is where it becomes a little more complicated whether or not you choose to go for lethal, because with that 2 life he does have 2 more chances to destroy one of my characters on board or something like that, which would make it a bit difficult to go for lethal still. And because I'm still at 4 life, I'm still at a relatively safe spot. I don't feel the urgency to go all in right now, so I do end up just playing 1 character and passing the turn over again. So in this matchup, whenever you leave your characters rested, you can expect them to be gone the next turn. So generally, you can expect all of your rested characters as well as 1 active character to be removed the following turn. So notably here, he had 2 life and he did still play the Yamato, which means he didn't get to heal 1. He does still get to clear my kit, which is also going to be a bit painful still. So again, start off with the 5k swing because his hand is small, every card matters. Then here, I'm intending to go for the longer game still. I have 2 blockers in hand, so I know I'm not going to die next turn. So I can continue to reduce his hand size and then push for lethal the following turn instead. So I firstly start with my Shiraya blocker, and then leader effect, play down, I believe, a Sanji. So I can still attack with Beppo and Bonclay here. And then I confirm because his hand is still 3, I'm going to decide to just swing 5k at the Beppo to try and bring that down to 2, and then develop another body and pass turn. Shockingly, he does take the 5k swing here, so I think about it and I decide why not, let's just push the last bit of damage in. Swing 10 into leader, copying the ace, and I do still have K and Killer in hand. And he does trigger the Frankie here, and I do play King and Killer and swing 10 with it to end the game. So a bit of a change of plans for that last turn, because I did intend to stall the game one more turn, but it seems that he just didn't have any counter in hand at all, which does happen to be the case quite a few times. So make sure to, of course, test your opponent's hand before you decide, oh, okay, let's go one more turn. But you can see here the basic concept is to line up many characters, and then after that, swing many times with a lot of Dawn. So make sure that you can develop your Dawn and your characters as wide as possible, and make sure you swing 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, or if your opponent has smaller hand size, you can just swing 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and just make sure to cut and whittle away at their hand cards bit by bit. It's also important to know that every time you rest the character, it's pretty sure that you're going to let go of it the next turn. With the way Enel decks are also built, you're also going to expect to lose one active character at the end of every turn, which is why it's important to remove your opponent's big characters if possible. You can see that game I didn't have that many ways to remove the larger characters except for swinging into them, and sometimes that is acceptable, especially if your opponent is stuck at 2 life and you can freeze them there and you've already burned their hand in other ways by swinging 5k or smaller numbers earlier in the turn. So we're on to our next game here. Our opponent swung 6k banish at us on the 3 Dawn turn, and we choose to take it because end of the day we do want to get lower on life, so the Gadatsus are less active. And you can see I was considering swinging 6 and then playing a 3 cost, but if I did, then Gadatsu would have been able to KO it the next turn, so I decided to just play the 4 cost Law and not get that much value on it, which does turn out to be a good idea because he does swing 5 and then plays the Gadatsu, which would have been able to clear my 3 cost blocker. So playing the blocker Law there was of course the better choice still. And then after that, now I'm back on 6 Dawn. I'm going to swing into face with my leader, and he does take that, which does come out with a Brule. And then I'm going to clear the Gadatsu because I do want to swing with the Law as well to push him to 1 life. Now it's important to push him to 1 life here because the next turn he will still be on 7, and with 2 or more characters on the board still, we do want to be able to continue to pressure him. So I do swing 6 with the blocker Law. He ends up blocking the Brule because next turn I will probably have bottomed it for free, and then he goes to 7. He swings 7 at my board and then plays a 5 cost Luffy to clear the Beppo. So you can see earlier that I was considering to play the Shashi Pen instead of the Beppo as well, but I figured that since he can't Gadatsu the Beppo, he does have to have that Luffy to clear it, so I was willing to take that risk. So now that he's on 2 life and his next turn is 9 Dawn, firstly, I'm just going to make a few pokes at him to see if he does end up taking. So after my 2 pokes here, I'm going to develop my board again with the amount of Dawn I have, which is 7 right now, as well as a blocker kit. I can develop another blocker kit and then play 4+4 with my leader effect. So I clear the Nami, I play Reiju, draw 2, and now that I drew Bonclay off of that Reiju, I'm going to play the Bonclay as well, in anticipation of that Yamato coming up. So I set him at 1 life here, even though his next turn is Yamato, because he's put me at 2 life. He can't clear my 4 cost with Yamato when he's at 1 life, but he can if he's on 2. So he didn't have the Yamato here, so he ended up swinging 9 at my blocker Law, and then he plays Egghead Luffy and clears my Bonclay because it does pose a bigger threat in the future turns. But he is still at 1 life, and I have 3 attackers, plus I think 9 Dawn now, so I have a lot of attacking power. And you can see I'm going to start pressuring right away. 7k leader, 7k leader, and burning 2 cards at a time from his hand. He does still have a rather large hand at this point, but I'm slowly chipping away at it with these big 7k swings, and I can keep doing this because I have a lot of board still, and I have a lot of Dawn. So I start off with the Reiju, and then I'm going to continue with 2 more 7k swings. And he does have to take that one. I use my leader effect and play down Kid and Killer to put on even more pressure. Here, because he doesn't have enough board to clear everything on the crackback, I can just continue to play more characters. And with that, the game is already over. He's not had enough counter to protect himself from that last 8k swing. I have 2 more games to go through. Here's another win. In this case, it's a very simple start. 1 Dawn nothing, 3 Dawn I play Zorojiro. So most people would suggest that you don't play Zorojiro in this matchup. I feel like you should still play it down just because it is a potential attacker and you want to make sure that you are able to get as many attacks into Enel as possible. Even if he doesn't get the ramp off, just being able to have that extra attack is actually very significant. So I have a pretty good start. I go Zorojiro into Kid Shachipen. And he also has a pretty decent start. He has Kikunojo into Gadatsu. So he clears my Shachi and Penguin. Goes back to my turn. I'm on 7 Don. I want to get rid of the Kikunojo. So firstly, I'm going to swing 5 again. He does take. And because he's on 8 Don next turn, it's okay to push him to 1 life. I'm going to play Kid and Killer down. And then I'm going to bottom deck the Kikunojo. And then I have 2 Dawn active and Bonclay in hand. So I'm going to play Bonclay and get 2 more Dawn active with Kid and the Bonclay effect. And then I'm going to play Shachi and Penguin down as a vanilla, just so I have that additional attack. He has a pretty weak turn here. He goes for a Shirahoshi, so he doesn't have a Katakuri or anything here. Wants to cycle his hand, look for more big bodies or more counter. So goes for the Shirahoshi, drops an Ace as well as a Gadatsu, and then he passes the turn back to me. So now I have 6 attacks available and I'm going to beat him up. So I start with the Kid and Killer, swinging for 7. So generally you want to play around the triggers, swing with your larger attacks first. So you're playing around both KO triggers as well as Beige. So I start with that Kid and Killer swing, he counters, then I'm going to swing 7 with the Zorojiro. So I'm not using the Kid blocker to swing here first because I may want to leave it active. Continuing to put on pressure with the Zorojiro, and I still have 3 Dawn, so I can swing with, 5 Dawn, so I can swing 7 with Leader, Shachipen, and Bonclay as well. So he takes my 7k Leader swing, I still have 3 Dawn, his hand is down to I believe 6 before Leader effect. He's forced to drop another card to heal, and I do still have 2 attacks minimum. So he drops another Ace down, I swing 7 with Shachi and Penguin. You can see he has 2 Yamatos in hand. So he does counter out of that hit. And then I'm also going to swing 7 with my blocker Kid. He's now at 4 hand cards. I'm at 2. He takes, I Leader effect, bottom deck the Shirahoshi, replace my Zorojiro with a blocker Law, and I get 1 Dawn active as well. And I'm going to swing 7, copying the Gadatsu. And now he's at 2 hand cards. So he's in a very, very bad spot. So now he's going to probably want to clear my board. So I'm going to expect him to swing at the Bonclay and then at the Kid and Killer. So this might have been a misplay on his part because he did swing 5 with the... He could have swung 5 and then 7 into the Kid and Killer. But now he's telegraphed that he is going to play Yamato instead of Ace. So I can just counter out. And he's at 3 hand cards and 1 life. So again, I can continue to put on that pressure and swing big into his face. 7 with the blocker Kid first. At this point, he is having to pray for triggers. So he takes, discards 1. Heals 1. I go 7 again, which he does counter with the 0 cost event. I go 7 again. He's at 1 hand card, so he has to take. And with Leader effect giving me 1 extra Dawn with the Kid, blocker Kid effect, that puts me at 9k and guaranteed lethal. And there we have it. Now, I'm not going to pretend my win rate in this matchup is 100%, so here is a loss of me again playing the matchup as well. So I do start with a similar Zorojiro start. He shows me nothing on 4. On 5, I go for Bonclay here. I think I could have also went for Ain instead, because that would have been a more valid attacker next turn. But it does get cleared by the Gadatsu that he has on 6. And I answer on my 7 with Ace to clear the Gadatsu. So first I'm going to swing 6 at Leader. which he does take. Again, you do want to put him at 1 life before his 8 dawn turn, because that forces him to either Karakuri himself or have to take 3 or more attacks. So I have Reiju here, and I'm on 7 dawn again next turn. He does have the Karakuri to answer. So I believe here I should have pushed face, probably 3 big swings. 777 would have been good, but I do end up developing my board instead. I go Ain into leader effect Reiju again, and then I play Sanji with my remaining 3 dawn because I am at 6. So here, because I am at 5 life from the Karakuri, he does use Yamato to clear my Sanji, which is a bit painful. But it is what it is. We do still continue to poke. So here we have 5 attacks available. So I'm going to start with that 5k swing, and then I'm going to make a small misplay here and swing with the Ain instead of the Beppo, because I forget he is on 10 full dawn, so I do waste 1 dawn here. And that 1 dawn actually does end up mattering, I think, at the end of this game. So I swing 7, he takes it, he does trigger a Raigo, I believe, to clear my Beppo. And I lose out on 1 dawn like that, which is a bit frustrating. And here, now that I've lost that additional attack, I'm starting to think I probably shouldn't go for face anymore, which is a bit of a frustrating play as well. So I think what I could have done instead was to swing 777 with my whole board, including my leader, and then leader effect out the Sanji. But I think I also didn't want to use my leader effect to go down on dawn again. Now usually I wouldn't counter out of these hits, but because I do have ace in hand, I want him to rest his characters, so I've countered out the first 5k swing. So here he plays a Gedatsu and clears my Reiju, puts me at 2 characters on board again, and passes the turn over to me. I'm at 10 dawn now, so I have more dawn to swing. And I also have Key and Killer in hand. I think I probably could have decided to push for face here, but I do end up attacking into the Yamato, and then I clear I swing 6 into the Yamato again, and then I clear the Gedatsu with my leader effect. So I actually did have a Gordon in hand, so I think it may have been better to clear the Katakuri or the Yamato with that second Gordon. So I think this is another misplay that I made. So again, all of these turns, it should have been probably hitting face instead of trying to hit the Yamato. But I did get 3 hand cards out of swinging the Yamato. I think instead I just could have had more hand cards if I cleared his face instead. So another Karakuri to send my second ace into the bottom of my life. And this is something a lot of NL players get wrong. They don't know when to start hitting into your face. And you see here my opponent does start hitting into me, puts me back at 4 life, and is going to threaten me with lethal in about 3 turns from now. Because he does still have 3 big bodies on board, it's almost guaranteed that each body is going to be 1 life taken. So here I'm starting to feel the pressure as well. I do still have 9 dawn, and I'm going to put some pressure on him because he is still on 1 life. I asked to read Eltor real quick just to guarantee when it gets the extra plus 2k, which is when your opponent is at 2 life. So even though he does have that 2 dawn showing, I don't need to be super concerned about that 4k counter. And I'm going to start swinging into his face and reducing his hand size. So I start with 7k with the Shachi and Penguin. And because I'm still at 4 life, I still can't use my Zorojiro's effect, which is frustrating, but it is an additional attack still. So he takes that first 7 swing, and I'm going to swing 7 again with my leader, which he will counter out of. And with 5 dawn, I'm going to play Kid, play down a Shuraya with my leader effect, get that 1 dawn active, and then I'm going to swing at him again with the Zorojiro, which he does counter out of to stay at 1 for the next turn. And then he's going to show me another Yamato to clear my blocker Kid, because I'm still at 4 life again. And now he's going to swing everything into my board, 5 and 8, and then 8 and 9 into face. And as you can see, he set up this lethal pretty well. So now I'm going to be at 2 life. Next turn he has 5 attacks. And this is, again, how you set up lethal against Apilor as Enel. So I'm in a pretty bad position. I have to force lethal. I need to run 4 full attacks into his face. I do have 2 Kid and Killers in hand. So I'm going to swing first, 7 here. He takes. And then I'm going to swing 7 again. He also takes. Heals 1, drops the Rygo. And then Kid and Killer swings 7 into face again. And he does have 3k counter. And I'm not able to go for a game. So leader effect, plays Kid and Killer. I swing into his Katakuri. And I pass the turn over. And he is going to swing everything into my face. To recap everything in this video, I think the few key pointers are: number 1, build your board as wide as possible. Number 2, keep your Dawn count as high as possible. Number 3, make sure to attack with an intention in mind. So for example, if your opponent is going to 8 Dawn next turn, then you will attack so that you can send multiple attacks into a 1 life opponent. Or if your opponent is on 9 Dawn next turn and you can't push him to 0 this turn, then you don't attack and keep your characters active, so the next turn you can swing 5 or 6 times into his 2 life leader. Remember, the key cards for this matchup will be your Regius, your Queens, your Ace if you play them. All of these cards are efficient and give you more hand cards, which is what you need when it comes to dealing with a deck that likes to play the long game. Another important card is that Kid and Killer, especially for that additional attack that comes out of your hand. And make sure you play your cards accordingly so that you can put the Enel on a lot of pressure. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, friendos and randos. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support, and I will see you guys again next time. Peace out.
It's only good to this matchup.
Yeah, I get that. I get the issue, but if you're playing the 3 cost then
I might want to cut my card.
I can cut it out. I can cut it out.
It's going to every other matchup. That's the problem. Basically, the issue with Enel is just that if I want to deck cards for Enel, then it's bad into everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, I will never drop Sanji into any other matchup. And I will, like, Zorjiro is going to every other matchup.
But at least Sanji is a 2k guy.
Yes, but the Zoro
It doesn't do anything else.
The Zoro, yeah, that's the problem. It doesn't do anything else. The Zoro, right, if I go first, right, I eat life. Then I find out turn, right? Zoro swing, now I got 6. I can golden Kid on 6. Otherwise, I cannot golden Kid on 6.
Means if you go first, right?
That's the point, because it's 3 costs. I play 4 Shimaya, 2 Shimaya, plus I don't like, I 3 down turn, I just get like